What really seems to be resonating with the audience is how do you navigate perhaps your own career? How do you stay innovative? How do you adjust, right? In some areas of pharma, and this is a direct quote from someone in the business, there's, quote, an existential crisis, right? Of what are certain roles now that we're in this AI-enabled world? And a lot of it comes down to, I think, how can we help people to get out of the mundane? Some of the number crunching, right? And some of the real boring stuff is not going to be as valuable to companies going forward. But the strategy work is always going to be super valuable. Hello, and welcome to Pharma Sessions, a place for pharmaceutical leaders to come and learn from each other. I'm your host, Jonathan Kaskey. Technology and market trends are bringing change at an ever-accelerating rate, and no person, team, or company can afford to be left behind. Here, we dive into the strategies and tactics that our guests use to tackle these challenges and create new opportunities, and how you can do the same in your own organization. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Pharma Sessions. This one's a little bit different. Every episode to date, and actually all of the ones I planned going forward, have involved me interviewing someone from pharma. A director, a VP, a CEO, whomever, getting their thoughts about sort of what excites them on their day-to-day. Today, I'm going to actually not have any guests. It's just going to be me because I want to share a little bit about the new direction of the show. The general format is pretty much going to stay the same. I meet somebody that I like, whether at a conference, in real life, online, find out what they're excited about. We have an episode that hopefully tries to get to the heart of the matter. However, I've had some changes in my own professional career, and actually Pharma Sessions has a new sponsor, which I'll talk about in a second. So we're broadening the conversation to focus on people, strategies, innovations, all the way across pharma and not so much medical affairs specifically. So about a year ago, I was working for my previous employer and we got sold. And unfortunately, the company that bought us, a private equity firm, had a very different take on, quite frankly, how they wanted to compensate their employees. This led to some conflict on my part where I wanted to be paid what was contractually owed to me on certain deals that I had facilitated, contracts I had facilitated, and they took the opposite position in that they did not want to pay me that amount. And so I left. And I decided it was time to start looking, find another job. And as I started to look around and explore, what am I going to do? At various times in my career, I had my own business. I've worked in a number of different roles. I decided that what really excited me was the process of building something. Right? One of my most fun times of my career and most rewarding was joining Within3 when it was about 25 people. Helping it to grow. I don't know what it was at the max, maybe 300 people. And then it got sold, right? And that was a really, really cool 5-6 year journey. So I actually discovered through a wonderful recruiter, a company called XSUNT, right? And I was interviewing all sorts of different places for all sorts of different roles. So XSUNT is data visualization that's mainly used by commercial pharma field teams. Our platform, we call it X1, and it's got this very, very cool conversational AI element. So what we were historically really good at was building dashboards, building reports, making it really easy for field teams to access information and understand who they should be calling and why, and build not target lists, right? But build lists based on certain criteria and understand how they should best be spending their time, right? And that was what the reps were doing. The DMs were doing something similar, right? Understanding how their teams were prioritizing their activities, who was doing well, who wasn't. HQ was using it from a higher level, and even execs were getting in there for all of their key metrics. So used quite a lot. I think our clients did over $40 billion of revenue on our platform in 2024. And then we put this AI layer in X1 that is just very interesting how we're approaching it. So the idea is you want to look at it or we are looking at it mainly as a user interface, so that if you are a rep in the field and you're bouncing between calls, you don't necessarily have to go 3 clicks deep to get what you need. You could just ask a question. I'm about to go in and call on Dr. Smith. What's their TRX? What rep triggered emails have they responded to over the last few weeks? Or this person just canceled. Who else do I know at Cedars-Sinai? Who should I call on? What are the biggest opportunities in my territory, et cetera? Right? Or if you're a regional DVM, you can ask very plain language questions, and it points only at our legacy product, which is super good at crunching numbers, right, and getting you the right answer. So it doesn't always come back in a text. It can come back in a chart, however we set it up. It's not really the point. The idea is to give pharma a really safe way to ask questions about their most critical data without hallucinations. So that is X1, and that's essentially what I've been trying to build. So what's really interesting is that even though there are some other companies that are kind of taking similar approaches, really the status quo is people doing this in Power BI and in Tableau. And they're finding that very quickly you hit the limitations of those around combining data sources, around usability, not understanding your business, right? They just, nor should they, right? They're not pharma specific tools. They don't know if you're in pharma and the next person has a restaurant and the next person is an architect. So that's really what attracted me, is where I've seen AI be successful is when it goes really, really deep in a very specific niche. That seems to be where it's most advanced and most usable versus a much more generic tool. And it was kind of that plus the culture of XSUNT, very down to earth, very friendly. A lot of employees have been here for almost their entire careers and might finish their careers here. So it had just, I don't want to say a family feel, because it's not a family, it's a workplace. It was a very open and honest feeling culture. And that I found really attractive and really a place that I wanted to spend my time and my efforts. So I joined in the summer, essentially to start their commercial organization. There's offices on 3 continents, right? It's not a nothing company. Like, it's doing a significant amount of revenue and it's very mature. But again, the commercial side of things is not. And that was very exciting to me, because so often, especially if you've lived in the world that I've lived in, of talking to various VC-backed firms, it's usually the opposite. Usually it's great marketing, a slick website, and a product that can't really do what it could claim to do, or what it's claiming to do, I should say. So again, this was the opposite. They weren't even making any claims. Their website hadn't been updated in like 15 years. I looked at that and I thought, okay, cool. This is a place I could come in, make a difference. And it spans a lot of things that I spent a lot of time, a lot of my career thinking about, like big data, AI, what applications are appropriate of AI within the pharma space. How do we make it work while still mitigating risk? And I think that's a lot of, and I've seen this in the numbers of the show since I've started taking this new direction, what really seems to be resonating with the audience is, how do you navigate perhaps your own career? How do you stay innovative? How do you adjust, right? In some areas of pharma, and this is a direct quote from someone in the business, there's, quote, an existential crisis, right? Of like, what are certain roles now that we're in this AI enabled world? And a lot of it comes down to, I think, how can we help people to get out of the mundane, right? Some of the number crunching, some of the real boring stuff is not going to be as valuable to companies going forward. But the strategy work is always going to be super valuable. And so when we're talking to companies and we're talking to business intelligence and analytics, sort of the reason that they might be looking to have us or a vendor like us come in and help them navigate off of a Power BI or something is that they don't necessarily want their teams coding reports all day. They want to be looking at reports and coming up with strategic suggestions to help their organization. So anyway, I thought this was really cool. And I thought that with my background in commercial and in medical, I could probably make a difference. And so that's what I'm doing, right? And XSUNT looked very favorably on Pharma Sessions and offered me a whole bunch of resources to try to make the show look better, sound better, get more traction. So if you've noticed a difference since the summertime in the production quality and the number of episodes and the frequency and the consistency of the episodes, it's because I'm no longer trying to do it myself. And I just absolutely suck as a podcast editor. I love doing them. I have a lot of fun recording them and interviewing people and meeting people. Please don't ask me to edit them. Hopefully I never have to do it again. So let's hope this is successful.
If you've been enjoying the conversations here on Pharma Sessions, you should know they're made possible by the team at XSUNT. XSUNT helps life sciences companies turn complex data into clear, actionable insight. For years, XSUNT has made complicated data sets simple to help commercial, medical, and operations teams map what's happening, predict what's next, and make stronger decisions faster. And now there's an added AI layer that makes everything work so much better. I was actually pretty jaded about some of the AI approaches I'd seen, but when XSUNT showed me theirs, I actually left my job to come work for them. It's really awesome. So if you want to understand your market, your customers, or your performance with more clarity than ever, check out XSUNT.com. That's XSUNT.com. All right, let's jump back into the episode.
That's essentially the new direction of the show. I want to take a broader look. Med affairs is still going to be a big part of it, right? Because everything that we're doing in commercial with commercial field teams, we're very soon going to be doing with medical field teams, right? You swap out data sets, you swap out MSLs for sales reps, and the central questions of who should I be spending my time with and what should I be talking to them about, that remains the same. Additionally, I'm trying to not become an AI in pharma podcast, but a lot of people want to talk about it. And if you've been to a show or a conference or an industry event lately, a lot of them feel like this is an AI in pharma conference. So my strategy is to stay focused on, I think, some of the reasons that people like this show to begin with, which is what are we trying to accomplish? Why? And then get to how you do it, right? There's this idea maybe 3 years ago at this point, everybody needed an AI strategy. And that always seemed kind of weird, right? Because nobody's ever coming and saying, hey, I need an email strategy. I need blah, blah, blah. That's the tactic. So AI is kind of intermeshed and intermingled throughout all this stuff that we're doing. But having AI be the answer isn't really a strategic imperative. We have our strategy goals. They're largely similar to what they were before AI. AI is a tool that they can sometimes help you get there faster. That said, when people are doing this and it's actually working and they're willing to share about, I think that's something people have a lot of interest in, right? So there will be that bent to this going forward, but I can promise you it's going to stay as human as we can. Because I think that one of the other things that I really like, and I think when I talk to people about the show, they like, is just getting to know some of these people, right? It's a very small world in pharma. I was just talking to somebody who's going to be joining me as a guest, and we were going through LinkedIn, and like 10 of my previous guests are in her network. She lives in Scotland, right? We are nowhere close to each other physically. I've never worked for the same company that she's worked for, but we run in similar circles, right? And I think that you'll find that a lot of the truly innovative people tend to know each other. So that leads me to the other part, which is I am attempting to increase from every 2 weeks to every week. Part of that is we're trying to find really good guests. If you think you might be one of those guests, drop me a line. And really the criteria is, do you have something to say? If you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about something that excites you related to work, I would love to hear about it, because if it's interesting to you, it's probably going to be interesting to others in similar positions. So we are broadening out. We're speaking now to pharma professionals across analytics, strategy, across commercial fields. I think their voices are critical to shaping the industry's future. By the way, a quick tangent. The other thing that's happened as this podcast has gotten more popular is I started getting a ton of unsolicited invitations from people who have claimed to have health cures outside the mainstream, of which I'm really skeptical. So if you are in pharma and doing something interesting, reach out to me. If you're trying to sell people one weird trick to lose 15 pounds and, impress all your friends, just save the email. We don't need it. So again, what you can expect going forward is that we'll continue to have the same quality and caliber of guests and topics. It's going to be largely focused around customer-centric engagement models, around understanding strategy. There will be more commercial strategy. There will be more tech, but I can promise you that it's all going to be from people that are doing really interesting things. We'll let our guests share what trends they're interested in, some of their strategies, wins. I'll continue to try to drill down a bit. So hopefully, as you're listening to it, you might do your job a little bit differently based on some of these lessons that people are willing to share. And ideally, that's the goal. Conversations that spark ideas you can apply directly in your work. So if you have any other questions for me, you know where to find me. Again, I'm thrilled to be part of XSUNT. It's going way faster than I expected. At some point, I might have some of my new team members on. We brought over one person from a big pharma company who is just a rock star. He used our product for 7 years and then decided he wanted to work with us. He's got some great stories to tell. I've been able to start working again with some of the greatest hits from my career. Some of the people I really enjoyed working with are now helping me out. We're growing the team across almost every possible way you can imagine. So it's really a fun and exciting time, and it feels really good to be building something again. All right. I hope you all have a great holiday, depending on when you're listening to this, or had a great holiday. And cheers to a successful 2026. Take care. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Pharma Sessions with me, Jonathan Kaskey. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone else in the pharma world who might need to hear it. For more on pharma trends, career growth, and business strategies, connect with me, Jonathan Kaskey, on LinkedIn. Until next time, thanks for listening.